Hello everybody, my name is SnipingIsFun, and I welcome you all back to my next The 5 list I'm going to present to all of you here on YouTube. And this is going to basically be a continuation of a video of the last one I just did, which is in of itself, I basically mentioned in that video, kind of like a little mini-series, its own little series of The 5 list already within my series of The 5 lists. And that list was the 5 Super Nintendo fighting games that all fighting game fans need to play. And this little mini-series in here is going to basically be a 5 list of, lists of 5 of game recommendations I basically going to be looking into for certain genres of games on certain different systems that I feel fans of those genres should be playing, need to play, look into playing, maybe they're interested in playing, so on and so forth. And basically I mentioned in that list fighting games. And if you're a fighting game fan, you're probably, maybe you're a new time fighting game fan, or maybe you haven't, played Super Nintendo or whatever not. I basically recommend 5 fighting games on the Super Nintendo that all fighting game fans, whether they're new fans that have only gotten to fighting games within the last couple of years, maybe been fans for a long time, but maybe never played on the Super Nintendo, or maybe they've been playing video games for as long as I have, or longer than me, and have played on Super Nintendo, but they never played those fighting games. Basically, it's a mini series of different game recommendations for different genres that I feel fans of those genres should be playing. I've already done on Super Nintendo. The next obvious step is to make the jump from the Super Nintendo all the way over to the next generation Nintendo home console, the Nintendo 64. And the Nintendo 64, just like the Super Nintendo, did have quite a bit of fighting games on it. But before I get started, I want to quickly make a mention of this, and I did the same thing with the Super Nintendo one, because I basically mentioned in the Super Nintendo one, I did not include any Mortal Kombat, and I did not include any Street Fighters, because those are major fighting games from like the 16-bit era, and everyone's practically played those, so to recommend those would make no sense, because everyone's already played them or looked into them. If they want to get Super Nintendo to play those games, there you go. They already have the access and the need and the desire, and probably already played those, or want to play those if they want to play those 16-bit, fighting games. I'm doing the same thing here. The same thing applies to Mortal Kombat, which was all on the N64. I'm not including no Mortal Kombat 4 or Trilogy or anything, because it's still freaking Mortal Kombat. And I'm not including the original Smash Brothers, because if there's a fighting game that fighting game fans love to play on the Super Nintendo, or desire to play on Super Nintendo if they have never played it, it's the original Smash Brothers, which started the entire series, the 12 characters, a good start to the series. I'm not going to mention that because it's freaking Smash Brothers. Everyone loves it, and everyone looks out to wanting to play the series, so I'm not going to recommend it. These are 5 games that are not Smash Brothers, not Mortal Kombat, not the big-time fighting games that every fighting game fan probably has played or looked into playing. So to get this started, I'm going to talk about 2 next entries of series I basically mentioned on my Super Nintendo list, and the first one is going to be Killer Instinct, and I basically mentioned the original Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo. It was a really good game. Arcade. It was basically the console counterpart, to the freaking arcade game, and it was a beloved game. This is Killer Instinct Gold on the N64, and it's just as beloved. It's just as good as the Super Nintendo game. It's missing some characters, but they've upgraded the visuals, upgraded the gameplay, the combos, and whatnot. It's the same pretty much game. It's just it's missing some things, but it's included new things and improved upon new things. It's still a really good freaking fighting game, and if you love Killer Instinct, there you go. If you played the Super Nintendo one and never played this one's still a good one to play. I never really played it because I only barely played this original on the Super Nintendo and looked into like the Xbox One version, whatever. But I know Killer Instinct is such a beloved freaking fighting game franchise, and like I said, I was originally not going to include it before because I kind of put it almost on the same belt, in the same position as like a Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. But some people have forgotten about Killer Instinct because it disappeared pretty much after Killer Instinct Gold, before the Xbox One game came out. So it's kind of like it's disappeared for so long that people forgot about it. So if you ever play a Killer Instinct game, play the Super Nintendo one. But on this list for N64 games, if you're looking for N64 games to play, Killer Instinct Gold. It may be missing some characters from the original, but it has improved visuals, improved gameplay. I think it's a little bit closer to the arcade game than the Super Nintendo version obviously was. The combo breaker, and just classic Killer Instinct fun. And then the second one I basically mentioned was Clay Fighter. In my Super Nintendo list, I talked about Clay Fighter 2, even though the original on the Super Nintendo is just as fun. This one is Clay Fighter 63 and a third, tied with Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. They're 2 different games that I know I'm cheating by putting them on the same position, but I've done this before with frickin' NBA 2K18, WWE 2K18, the Fabulous Moolah, and Mae Young on previous The 5 list. I don't really care, it's my list, because these are both Clay Fighter games on the system. Sculptor's Cut is just an upgraded version of Clay Fighter 63 and a third, but Clay Fighter 63 and a third, if you've ever played the Clay Fighter game, it's a basically comedic fighting game of characters made out of clay, and the sculptor's cut, joke, insider's joke, you sculpt clay. It's whatever. It's trying to be clever there, but it's like it has 12 characters. This one actually has some guest characters in it too, such as Boogerman, Earthworm Jim, and for all you youngins out there who probably don't know who those characters are, they're classic gaming icons from the 16-bit era, and I would strongly recommend you play those games too, especially the Earthworm Jim games. But they're in there, and then there's some new characters in there. There's a couple characters returning from Clay Fighter 1 and 2, and then some new characters. It's just like an improved version of freaking version of like the Clay Fighter games on the Super Nintendo. They include new characters, they do new moves, they include new stories on the Sculptor's Cut, and it's just an improved combo system, improved gameplay system over these Super Nintendo games. If you love the Super Nintendo games and you never played these, I would recommend you play these. I've only really played the Super Nintendo Clay Fighter games. I never really played the N64 ones, but I've heard really good things about them. Although I do think they're kind of rare at this point to try to find them. I don't know which one's easier to find in 63 1/3 or Sculptor's Cut, but if you can find any Clay Fighter game on the Super Nintendo, on the N64, I would strongly recommend it because they're some of the best fighting games on the the N64. And if you're looking for something that's not super serious, it's a very comedic game. There's like pumpkin dudes and dogs and clowns and evil snowman and all this crazy wacky stuff. You just want a really good fun fighting game to play with friends and family, I would strongly recommend the Clay Fighter games, whether it be 63 1/3 or Sculptor's Cut. You can't go wrong either way. So that's 2 right there. 3 is going to go to Xena Warrior Princess, The Talisman of Fate. And for those of you who grew up watching the Xena franchise back in the 90s, you would probably know what this game is and probably have played it already, but it's kind of like a 3D like arena fighting game, but like set on a 2-and-2 like plane. Not like no Soul Calibur, but also not like Power Stone. It's like you have a 3D arena you can fight in, but it's kind of still like a one-on-one fighting game, even though it does include, it's a 4-way fighting game too. You can basically play 4-way fighting. Like you can put 4 players in the arena and fight. You can do a team battle of 2-on-2. It includes all the classic Xena characters. It is kind of a product of its time because Xena was a franchise back in the late 90s and early 2000s and whatnot. And so if you don't really have such, fascination or nostalgia or whatever for the Xena franchise, this might not be for you. But at the same time, I basically mentioned before, whether you know the source material or not, usually fighting games, you can just get into it because of the gameplay and how fun it is. And this game was pretty fun. I do recall it being pretty fun because I did used to own this game and I did play it quite a bit. And I wasn't the biggest Xena fan. I did watch it here and there, but I didn't really like Xena all that much. But I did like this game a whole heck of a lot because it was a really good freaking fun fighting game. I play it with my friends. Play it with my family. You can get the Xena and her cast of characters of her friends and the enemies and the villains and all these cool different movesets set in like medieval times with magic and swords and spears and all this stuff. And it's a unique, different fighting game because it's not like a straight like Street Fighter 1-on-1 2D plane type thing. It's not a Power Stone either or a Smash Brothers, but it's like set in a 3D type arena where you can walk around, but it's technically a 1-on-1 fighting game or a 4-way fighting game or team or whatever. I do recommend it. I especially recommend it if you ever remember watching Xena, which is for like the older people out there. I don't know if any of the young kids out there remember who the heck Xena even is, but I would recommend it if you like it. And if you just want to try a different, unique fighting game and you're trying to get into some Nintendo 64 fighting games, I would strongly recommend this because it's at least different. It's not just a standard 2D fighting game, 2D fighting game or a 3D like Tekken, Soul Calibur or anything. It's a unique, different approach to it, and it's a license-based fighting game that's kind of fun. The 4th one I'm going to talk about is going to go to Flying Dragon. And this game I used to own, and it was so freaking fun. It's a fighting game from Natsume, if you remember. That they basically do, the Harvest Moon games and whatnot. It's a really good fighting game. I remember used to owning this, and it's basically like almost like 2 games, 2 modes in one, because there's basically one fighting game in it that's basically a lot of like chibi, younger kid characters, and then you can play as like these older characters, and some of them I think are the young kids older, so I don't know if there's a story involved in this, because like I said, it's been a long freaking time since I played this game. I don't own it anymore. I really wish I did. I want to go out and try to find this game again. This is one of my favorite fighting games of all time on the N64. If you guys have played Flying Dragon on Nintendo 64, is one of the best fighting games I think I've ever played on the system. It's right up there with like Smash Bros. In my opinion. It's one of my favorite fighting games on the Nintendo 64. But it's basically kind of like a Tekken-esque, Virtual Fighter-esque fighting game. It has RPG elements. I do remember you can, like, when you play through like the arcade mode or whatever, you can get like like items to kind of upgrade your character a bit. Like I said, there's 2 game modes, so you can play as the chibi-ish kid characters or the older, more adult, serious-looking like fighting game characters. I think some of them are like versions of those characters. Anyways, I do believe there's some characters from one that are in the other, and vice versa. And there's some new characters in each one too. So it's kind of like 2 fighting games in one, and it's just a really fun fighting game. If you like Tekken, especially classic Tekken, if you like the Virtua Fighter series especially, you probably would like Flying Dragon. It has some cool anime-esque fighting game characters, like cool movesets, good gameplay. I recall playing this with my friends and family before. It was a decent fighting game I remember playing back in the day that I actually enjoyed playing with other people. And it does have its own single-player modes that you can pretty much do and get involved in and pretty much you enjoy. I haven't been able to find it since I got rid of it, and it's like I said, it's something I really want to get. But for those of you out there that have never played it at all, it's probably a unique experience. And it is a fighting game on the Nintendo 64 I strongly, strongly recommend, because it's unique and different, and it's fun gameplay, fun story and characters. You got the RPG elements. It's not it's not a rinse and repeat of like almost every fighting game you pretty much play out there. It has a lot of similarities. I'm not saying it's totally unique and different, like basically mentioned with Xena and whatnot. But at the same time, it is a fun experience that I strongly recommend you look into. If you want to find some N64 games, this is probably one of the 2 I strongly recommend. And then the 5th one is the one I will strongly recommend even more, and it's another split choice, another 2 choices, and it's the Fighter's Destiny franchise. There's a first one and a second one. I never really played the original, although I did buy it at one point and barely played it, but I never really got around to playing it a whole lot because I kind of got rid of it quickly or so. But it's like not because the game kind of sucked or anything, because the game was really good, but I didn't really get to play because the cart was kind of messed up and I had to take it back to the store. But Fighter's Destiny 2 I grew up with just as much as Flying Dragon. Like I said, these are the 2 I recommend the most. Fighter's Destiny 2 and Flying Dragon. And basically, if you guys, this is Fighter's Destiny 2. It's a black cart. I used to have this game before, but this I ended up getting rid of it, so this is a used copy I bought years ago. It's basically, if you want to know exactly what it is, it's basically like a Virtua Fighter type of game on the Nintendo 64. It's basically very martial arts, very every fighting game, every character in this fighting game has their own like unique fighting style, like boxers or some taekwondos or martial arts, karate and stuff like that. Every character has their own unique fighting style, and every character pretty much represents a different, in both games actually, represent their own their own countries. It's basically a big international fighting game. It's kind of standard since like Street Fighter came out and everything, and King of Fighters, to have characters from around the world coming to these big competitions. The unique thing about this, and it applies to both of them, there's a scoring system. It's not like a standard. You can fight and win by just beating your opponent's life bar down, but there's a point system to it. You can knock people down. You can take them down. You can knock them out of the ring. You can do various. It's like scoring based. It's like a martial arts. If you're going to watch like a karate contest, like how they score points based off how people fight, it's very much like that, and it's really unique, really different. It stands out because of that, in my opinion. Like I said, I only played and really love the second one, but a lot of people love the original too, and I do see people that like the original more than the second one. I see some people that like the second one more than the original. I can't really say so much because, like I said, I never had the original when I was younger, and I did end up buying it a couple years ago, and like I said, I couldn't get the cart to work. I'm still looking for that game, but regardless which one you get, I don't think there's too much of a difference. If anything, I would just say recommend buying both, because they're both unique experiences. Like, there's characters in the original that they didn't bring back in the second one. I do recall looking into it. A lot of the cast in the second one is new characters. There's only a couple of returning characters. But the same gameplay scoring system, if you like to play a fighting game that's different, that's not just, oh, I'm going to beat your life bar down and I'm going to win, here it is for you. Like I said, there's a scoring system. You could adjust the points. Like, okay, maybe I want this to be more points than this. You can adjust it as much as you want. Like, okay, maybe the most points are if you do a takedown. You do a KO or a knockout of the ring. I think you can make people tap out too. It's very technical, and it's very Virtua Fighter. If you love Virtua Fighter a whole heck of a lot, this is the N64 equivalent, this series. And the second one includes some like Fighters Arena type mode that I recall that you can pretty much, it's like a game board. You walk around and win battles and upgrade your guys' stats. You can pretty much build your character up. And that's an interesting new mode they included in the second one. And there's secret characters aplenty in this game. You play as a freaking cow and the clown. So there you go. And that is my 5 fighting games on the Nintendo 64. I believe all fighting game fans out there should play and need to play. Killer Instinct Gold, Clay Fighter 63.5 / Sculptor's Cut, Flying Dragon, Fighter's Destiny 1 and 2, and Xena Warrior Princess, The Talisman of Fate, even though that's technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's a 7 games list and a list of 5 because I double dipped twice in this list. I don't really care, but there's 7 games there if you really want, in the span of 5 games, which really counts as 5 because one's an upgrade version and one's a sequel. Go at it, but if I had to strongly recommend at least 2 in here, I would strongly recommend Flying Dragon and the Fighter's Destiny series. I hope you guys liked this video. Put in the comment section what you guys think. Have you guys played any of these games out there? Any fighting game fans, have you played any of those games out there? And are any of these games sounding interesting that you want to look out for? Because I like to do this. That's why I'm doing this list, is I want to try to get fighting game fans or any other genre, because I'm doing this more genres in the future with these 5 lists. I'm recommending this stuff for people out there that want to look into like different games for those genres. So that's it. And that's about it. My name is SnipersFun. Peace. Please subscribe if you want to. Have a lovely day, and see you all later in my next video. Bye.